Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, bringing you my long-awaited opinion on the Battlefront beta. Now, I was originally going to put this video out way back on Tuesday when I got early access to the beta, but I really wanted to play this thing out because this game is so important to me, and I'm a diehard fan of this franchise, and I wanted to test the waters. I know a lot more of you guys would have shown up if I did that early access video, but I really wanted to play this thing the entire week through and really solidify my opinions, give it some time to digest, and type some things up, go back, play the older Battlefront games, get some research in. So I'm here to bring you guys an extra video today and talk about, as you can tell by the title down below, my unpopular yet educated opinion on Battlefront. And the reason I say that is because I have done a shit ton of research, but I feel like the conclusion I came to is not going to be one everyone likes to hear. And so, since I said that this is an unpopular opinion, I apologize, I joked on my words, I wanted to stand out with a quote here from Thomas Jefferson. And it says, "I never considered a difference of opinion in politics, in religion, in philosophy, a cause for withdrawing from a friend." And I don't mean to get all philosophical on you guys here, but I felt that was a perfect quote that could relate to basically anything gaming, that we're friends here. I, as you guys know, call you guys not my fans. I try to call you guys my viewers, if anything, but really, overall, you're my friends. You guys are good friends. And I don't see any reason that if my opinion differs from yours that we should be hating each other. Disagreement is okay. You know, healthy discussion is what we want here. So that's what I want you guys to do. At least respect my opinion. I'm making a very long video today to talk about my honest thoughts on this game. And so, without further ado, let's dive into this. So, I'm going to talk about my history with Star Wars as a whole. As a kid, I grew up playing this shit. This is my original copy of the first ever Star Wars Battlefront. I got it at Circuit City, and it's so original that, as you can see, it comes with a flyer of Battlefront 2 right here, as well as the instruction manual and obviously the disc. I don't have my original copy of Battlefront 2. I sold that when I wanted to get my Xbox 360. I have Star Wars Bounty Hunter and Knights of the Old Republic somewhere around my house. But anyways, I've played Star Wars all my life. Like, it is my childhood, man. Just like a lot of you guys my age, I'm 20, we played the life out of these Star Wars games, whether it was Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, or Jedi Academy, I think it was, the Obi-Wan games, like I said, KOTOR, there was Bounty Hunter, what else was there? Starfighter, there were so many Star Wars games, and they were all so much fun. Some have aged better than others, but I've put so much unhealthy amount of time into these Battlefront games, especially KOTOR, the main one, as you all know here. But honestly, Battlefront, I've put so much time into it, to the point where I still play it to this day. I mean, granted, every year as it progresses, I play it less and less, but these games are just solidified in my childhood, and I used to play them endlessly back then, and still do to this day. So this is an opinion coming from a guy who has loved this franchise and has just grown up with it, and it means so much to him. So that's why I'm pointing that out, because I know a lot of you guys do know that, but I want to make sure I point that out so that you know this isn't just some you know, when I say anything negative about these games, it's not me bashing them because I'm like some Reddit poster who's like posting these comparison charts and trying to get my 15 seconds of fame with inaccurate information. This is coming from a guy who loves this franchise and who just can't get enough of it and is just really cares about it. So I hope you guys will respect what I have to say. And so now that I've really established the groundwork here for this video, let's talk about everything. And I want to start off by talking about the original Battlefronts. And I'm, like I said, not bashing them, but people always want to put this reboot from DICE side by side with the older ones, naturally. Now, I'm going to be talking about Battlefront 1 and 2. I don't really play a lot of the PSP Battlefront. That was probably the least played Battlefront of them all for me, personally. I know some of you guys really like those, and I'll bring up some examples from them, but I'm mainly focusing on Battlefront 1 and 2. Because that's the one that everyone's comparing them to. They're not even comparing them to these PSP games. They're comparing them to 1 and 2. So that kind of works out in my advantage. Anyway, Battlefront 1 has a campaign, Galactic Conquest, and instant action. And hear me out here, but they're all essentially rehashes of themselves. So, for example, the campaign in Battlefront 1 takes scenes from the movies, which is funny as hell. When I was playing it earlier, I was like, oh my god, no way. But they're taking scenes from the movies, and then after that, it's a conquest battle. So we'll talk Galactic Conquest later, but for now, let's talk about this historical campaign. There wasn't a story. And the reason that I'm talking about that is because so many people were like, well, DICE is so lazy not doing a story. But the games we love and we cherish so much when we were a kid obviously did not have a story at all. They took scenes from the movie and then put a basic conquest battle afterwards, as you guys see on screen now. We're fighting on Naboo, and it's pretty cool fighting against the Gungans as the droids. You know, that was a cool little theme there. It was a nice way to start it. But you get what I'm saying, that it's a basic... I could do that same thing. I could literally go into instant action, go on a battle of Naboo, set it as conquest, and say, this is the Battle of Naboo. And it's the same thing. There was no objective. There was nothing. It was just win the battle. And that's all there was to it. There wasn't a story, as I said. It was just following the scenes in the movie, because it was essentially a tie-in game. It was designed to tie into that universe and display these battles that happened in the movies, while the movies actually focus on the characters themselves. It makes sense in context, but I'm just saying that it's one thing worth pointing out. As for Battlefront 2, the campaign there, they stepped up their game and actually did in-game cutscenes, but honestly, once again, I gotta admit that the concepts were bare bones. And I'm saying this mainly because I personally, as a Battlefront player, always went straight to instant action or Galactic Conquest. The campaigns were one and dones, honestly. Even the amount of times I played them to this day, I've played them probably like twice in total. They're nothing. And Battlefront 2, like I said, stepped it up a little bit, but the concepts were bare bones. But they did move them forward. They took criticism into account where, like, Battlefront 1s were, like, no objectives, but at least Battlefront 2 had objectives. It was, like, capture this, collect that, return this, kill that. It was there, but like I said, it was nothing substantial, but at least the effort was made. Once again, though, it followed the movies, and that's what people complained about, and that's what's going to happen if DICE made a campaign for Battlefront. It would have to follow in some way the events of the movie for Episode 7. They're saying already that Battlefront's a tie-in, so if they did this campaign, you know, it would be tied into this movie, and their creative vision would be constricted. I'm not making excuses for them, okay, because I'm going to give them some shit later. But what I'm saying is that if they couldn't innovate a good story with the Battlefield franchise, where they had no creative restrictions, and they couldn't do a good story to save their lives, then quite honestly, I think with Battlefront, where there were creative restrictions, where they couldn't go to certain places because they had to follow this line with the movie, it was just like, it wasn't going to end well. So in a sense, I think it's a blessing in disguise that there's no campaign, but nonetheless, I have to say, yeah, it does bother me there's no campaign. They should have tried to find some way to put the effort in. But one thing that's worth reconsidering is that this game is coming out right next to the movie. That's what it's supposed to happen. If this movie wasn't happening, Battlefront probably would have additional development time, wouldn't have been announced as soon, because when it was announced in 2013, all they showed off were concept, you know, like the weird little fucking concepts of the ATSTs and stuff. It was really silly. And I'd show you guys parts of that trailer, but EA flags trailers like a madman. And even though I'm a part of their YouTuber program, I don't trust it. But yeah, you know, you guys might know those trailers. And it was ridiculous. And you know, a year later, they don't really show us much again, and then they finally show us gameplay this year, and it makes sense in the sense that there isn't much because they didn't have a lot of development time. So I'm happy that at least if they decide to cut something out, they cut out a single-player campaign that they've always sucked at, instead of cutting out things from multiplayer, which they've always been very good at. In my opinion, DICE is the top first-person shooter developer. You once again are allowed to have your opinion, but I loved Battlefield Bad Company 2, one of my favorite shooters ever. Battlefield 3, holy crap, love that game to death. Battlefield 4, although a shitty launch, has finally fixed itself and is now a lot of people's favorite shooters. They make great games, and they're always because of the multiplayer. So I'm happy that if they're going to focus on something, it is the multiplayer. Now we're going to talk about a little bit more Battlefront 2, and we'll get to Galactic Conquest in a little bit, but let's talk about the modes, because a lot of people were comparing side by side how many modes Battlefront's reboot had compared to Battlefront, the Battlefront 2 game. And so they had a few new modes. They had Hunt, Extra Large Battles, Heroes vs. Villains, and Assault, aka your space battles, along with the standard Conquest and CTF. And so that's 6 total modes, and 4 of them being new. And so that's really not a lot, especially considering that the reboot has, I think, 7, which really isn't a lot either. But anyways, I'm going to talk about each mode. So Hunt was a pretty interesting mode on paper, but like once again, it was just kind of like team deathmatch, except different skinned players. So you know, you'd be shooting Jawas instead of droids or some shit like that. You know, it was ridiculous. Funny, cool concept, but nothing really special. Extra large battles was exactly that. Only certain maps could hold them, and these extra large battles were all out crazy battles of like tons and tons of people. Heroes versus Villains is exactly that. It was, you know, just your lightsabers and dueling people, and it was all heroes and villains. And then Assault, aka the space battles, was one of the bigger complaints that people had as an omission. But I want to show you guys a little bit of a comparison. Here we're looking at Felucia in the air. I'm sorry if my pronunciation there was off. That's one of the few planets that I have not studied up on. But anyways, we're looking at that, and all we are is in a skybox full of stars. And the difference between these space battles maps is, believe it or not, the color of the nebulae. And you'll see when we're above Hoth in the sky in space battles, that we have right here a different colored nebulae. And that's really all there is. It essentially is the same thing in concept, that you go from your ship to the other to go inside and destroy the core, and then it blows up, you win the battle, whatever. And it was the same thing over and over and over. And although my opinion does not stand for everyone else's, I gotta say that space battles were something that were very underwhelming. And at least in the Battlefront beta, what I took away from those space battles was that when you're in the sky, you're on the ground level of this, I don't know how to word it, like you're above the battle, where you're designed more so to contribute to the battle than go up in the sky and just dogfight with people. Although there is a mode focused on dogfighting, the main objective when you in Walker Assault, once you get inside those ships, is to help rain fire on these AT-ATs, as well as help clear out zones for your troopers. So you're contributing to the battle in a unique way, whereas in the previous Battlefronts, you either get up in the ship, go to the sky, and just get some points and come down, or you'd, and that's at least in the PSP ones, or you'd just go up in the sky and just stay there and just shoot shit. You know, it didn't really contribute to the battle in this sense, where at least in this game, it seems it contributes to the objective. Sure, if you're not really an objective guy, you could just sit up in that spaceship and essentially just fly around and not do shit, and just focus on people who come up into the sky and take them out. But honestly, from my perspective, Space Battles was a mode that, once again, was a bit overhyped by fans just because they're looking at quantity instead of quality. Sure, Battlefront 2 had a lot of modes, but a lot of them were either rehashes or just nothing unique. You know, Hunt was a reskin. XL added more people, not diminishing that. That was a unique mode. Heroes versus Villains, unique mode. Assault on space battles and stuff, yes, you could call that unique, but once again, it was just different color nebulae in the same skybox, okay? It was really nothing different. Where, you know, Conquest was there, that's the Battlefront mode, and CTF was there. And so I believe that's what cargo is in the Battlefront beta. They described it where you can capture their cargo, but your cargo doesn't have to be at the base. So it's CTF without your flag having to be at the base to capture cargo. So it's just constant back and forth. And that's what I've kind of liked about the beta, is that I've learned that a lot of these modes are unique first-person shooter modes with a Star Wars Battlefront twist on it, which I think can help set it apart. But anyways, time for the big one. I made you guys wait 13 minutes for it, but I warned you guys, man. Long video. Let's talk about Galactic Conquest, the big one, as I said. This is the most discussed mode to be included in Battlefront, and it's certainly a heartbreaker that's not there. I was very, very, very angry when we found out that Battlefront would not have Galactic Conquest. But I hope you're ready for a bit of another heartbreaker, because I'm essentially going to break down how this mode is not all it is cracked up to be. So, Galactic Conquest is essentially this. Instant action mode of Conquest. You pick a bonus, and you pick a planet you want to fight on. Presto, you have Galactic Conquest. Pro tip, by the way, if you'd like to succeed, by all means, pick the garrison bonus. Always win. And so that's all it was just a little random bonus on top of the instant action. And most of those bonuses were things that were available in the normal instant action, such as heroes, which if you're playing best on the game, then you're instantly the hero, and then you get to just spawn as one. Whereas in this Galactic Conquest, you had to earn it by spending credits and stuff, but it really wasn't anything unique. It was a cool concept, once again, on paper. All these are cool concepts on paper, but they didn't evolve into anything except really rehashes of their own instant action. And what I'm saying is that both the campaign and the Galactic Conquest mode people are claiming for are essentially just glorified rehashes of the instant action. Now, it's perfectly fine for its time, but it hasn't aged well at all. But, like I said, you know, I'm going to give DICE some shit here. Couldn't DICE have tried to innovate on these single-player modes a little bit? Absolutely. They could have taken Galactic Conquest and tried to push it further in some way to make it into something unique as a single-player mode. they could have taken space battles and instead of making it just different color skyboxes, tried to do something unique with it. But I guess, you know, they kind of made up for it by having just dedicated modes to starfighting, which I think is good enough in my opinion. But yes, absolutely, DICE could have tried to innovate, because in the terms of single player, they only have 3 modes. They have survival mode, which I'll get into in a little bit, battles, which is essentially instant action that you can play offline, and training, which is shitty combat training that you might recognize from Call of Duty. But survival mode, let's talk about the beta a little bit here. Survival mode was essentially a blue ball tease and does not show confidence in the mode at all, because it cuts you off at wave 6 of 15, and even on master difficulty, the hardest one, it doesn't get difficult at all. It was very simple, very easy to tackle everything there. Essentially what you do is you just team up with a partner or go in by yourself, and these Imperial troopers appear out of thin air and they ambush you, they attack you. Sometimes you get a drop pod, you claim it, protect it, and from there you get power-ups which you can use in further rounds to go ahead and help yourself take out these Imperial troopers. It makes it a lot easier than it already was. But I honestly wasn't too impressed with the mode, to be honest. It really didn't blow my socks off or feel like it did anything different. I think it'll be fun because towards, well, honestly, the final round, round 6, was when it got a little difficult. And so I'm very excited to see a lot of people try to tackle wave 15 on master difficulty and try to do that without dying or something, because you can get lives and stuff if you succeed for long enough. You can pick them up on the map. It makes it that way where it's almost like an arcadey kind of mode, but honestly it didn't show confidence in it at all. But that's kind of like the single player aspect of Battlefront, and its beta in general did not instill any confidence in it. And I already was not feeling confident about this game going in, and this is coming from a guy who fucking loves this franchise to death, that entering the beta I had 0 hype. And that's a bad thing, because that means that if I don't have hype, then probably a lot of other people don't. But I gave it a chance because it was available to download for everybody, which was a smart choice on DICE and EA's behalf. And I think they benefited from it quite a bit. But I downloaded it just like everyone else. In fact, like I said, I got early access. I hopped on and my opinion changed. Like I said, was not impressed with the survival mode. Didn't get to play the other battles or training because they weren't available in the beta, but honestly, they don't sound like anything special, especially when these single-player battles are available online where I can play actual people and test my skill. But the next thing I'm going to talk about is the multiplayer. Drop Zone is fucking awesome, okay? Like I said, this is the unpopular part, because I kind of like bashed a little bit on the older, I almost said Fallout, on the older Battlefront games, but well, I still love them. I love them. Don't worry. I still play them, but honestly, all that's holding these bad boys down is nostalgia. But like I said, that's why it's unpopular, because I really like the beta, and it kind of made me realize that these suckers are a bit dated. And so, Drop Zone's fantastic, because it's how Battlefront was played back then, but it's been pushed forward. And that's why I'm glad that they're focusing on their strengths here. So what Drop Zone is, if you haven't played it yet, is essentially you spawn in and a drop pod flies in from the sky. And they're always in these set locations, so eventually you can kind of have them memorize set tactics with your partner. It makes for some interesting gameplay on top of that. But what happens is that these drop pods come in, and you want to fight for these objectives, because unlike in Walker Assault, which I'll get into after this, these power-ups are not just littered across the map. You have to play the objective to earn them, and so you have to be a team player to get those these power-ups, such as the smart rocket or the thermal imploder, things like that. There is no heroes in this mode, but I think it benefits from that, because it's all infantry combat, it's all teamwork, it's all skill, and you can't just turn the game around by picking up these power-ups. But you don't really get a superior edge when you get these power-ups. Things such as proximity bombs are almost kind of useless. But things such as the thermal imploder are good when you see someone on the drop pod and you throw a thermal imploder in, it makes a sick sound and just decimates everything. But you know, it makes you play as a team player, which is something that DICE Games has always pushed, but Battlefront never really did, and to see that was actually really cool. So I loved Drop Zone. That's the mode you're seeing right now. I went 32-4 in this game, man. It was a blast playing this. But anyways, I want to talk a little bit about customization, because that's the only thing that, walking away from the beta, I was a little afraid of. I've been told that there's a lot more to it in terms of star cards, weapons, and power-ups, but still, gotta express my concerns a little bit here. I hope that there's more to those unlocks, because in the beta, there was enough for a beta, but I was thinking about the Star Wars universe and how many weapons there were, and since most of the star cards were, you know, one of them was a cycler rifle, which was essentially the sniper rifle. And so, you know, I was thinking to myself, well, now I know I can't unlock a sniper rifle as a primary weapon. So does that mean that it's just going to be a bunch of crappy variations of the same blasters? So I hope there's more to it than just 4 weapons. Like, I hope there's at least like 15 maybe. I don't know, man. I mean, you look at Call of Duty and even Battlefield, and they just blow that shit out of the water, and they have so many weapons. Like, I think Star Wars is a hard universe to create a ton of weapons for, but I think they can get the job done with at least hopefully 15 weapons or so. But that's the thing, is that star cards are essentially weapons as well. Like I said, that's where you get your equipment such as grenades, thermal detonators, or like I said, the cycler rifle, which is the sniper. And some people were critiquing this style of play, but I think it actually makes for interesting character builds where you look at the older Star Wars Battlefronts. It was all class-based, and it was very different to see in the beta it being changed up. But it kind of works where in Battlefront, it's like, I want to get a ton of kills. I'm going to go play as the normal clone trooper and have my blaster rifle and shoot shit down. And then when I need to go long distance, I'll switch to the sniper class. Now I can play both those play styles in the sense where I can have the cycler rifle, snipe someone, then switch to my DLT-19 and just start spraying people down at a medium range with ease. And so it made for an interesting build. And on top of that, you get power-ups such as Sharpshooter or Ion Shot. And Ion Shot is perfect for Walker Assault, where you are designed to, your shot changes to an ion shot, like I said, and it turns into like a crazy blue shot, and it takes out all these vehicles with ease. It does crazy damage to them. And so it was really awesome seeing that, but also there's one called Sharpshooter, and with each headshot you get, it reduces the cooldown time for your star cards. So let's say I'm using my cycler rifle, get a headshot. Now that cycler rifle comes back that much faster. Originally it's like 8 seconds, but I can cut it down to like 3 seconds. So I'm just constantly like boom, boom, you know, just shooting people down. And one thing that's worth mentioning is it's only a one shot if you hit them in the head. But nonetheless, it was a way that I could build a specific character in a unique fashion, and I loved it that way. You know, it was awesome. So hopefully these star cards keep expanding and keep upgrading, because what I saw in the beta was fantastic. It really gave me a feel of these different classes I could create, and I hope these star cards continue to evolve and they add a bunch more in the full game, because that's really what impressed me, was that they were there. But the fear I have is that hopefully there is enough, but if there's not, it's not going to be as good of a game, because the fun was leveling up, then 10% of your points earned in that game would convert into credits and you can buy stuff. You can visually customize your character, but not in the beta, so I'm assuming a lot of that money will go there. But that's one thing I'm afraid of as well. You know, visual customization is cool, but we all like to unlock the guns and stuff. But hopefully they make some kind of wacky customization options to kind of show off just how much time you've put into this game. I really hope they do that, because that would make it a really awesome thing. But anyways, Drop Zone's easily my favorite mode out of the entire beta, the 3 modes they offered us. But, you know, I really liked it. It was a good time. And Solist is a fantastic map, well crafted. The trench warfare is great, but then the way the drop pods land really spreads the map out in a unique sense, where you're not spawning on top of each other, but you're doing it's just a good job. You know, you're always running into someone, but it's not right off spawn. At least not yet, until people inevitably find out the spawns and then ruin the game. But anyway, the final thing is Walker Assault. And Walker Assault is like, I like it a lot, because it's like your typical Battlefield mode, where it's the big mode, and you know, there's a ton of people, and it's a big chaotic battle, and there's a lot going on. I think that 20v20 gets the job done, but I don't think 30v30 would ruin it. But I gotta say, sometimes those battles get cluttered, and I think 20v20 gets the job done just right. But I don't think pushing 30v30 would have been a bad idea, or 32 versus 32. But anyway, Walker Assault is, like I said, you know, depending on what side you're on. If you're on the Imperials, you're going to get a shit ton of kills, because you have the AT-AT to access, which you can just launch these artillery strikes down on. You can shoot from the cannons. You can shoot anything you can imagine. There's the AT-ST, which is obviously the Walker, and you get in that and you just stomp over people and just shoot people. That's easy to take out, but still, it can get you a decent amount of kills. You can obviously hop in all the turrets scattered around the map. There's the heroes. You have access to even the TIE fighters. You have access to so much artillery, and it makes sense because they're on the assault. Well, if you're a rebel, you really only have like the A-wing, you have the, let's see here, the turrets, and you have a hero, you know. And if you're playing on the Rebel side, you're probably gonna have a shit game. You know, it's very hard to do well on the Rebels and also win the game, unless you're being a selfish player or you're staying very close to where the power-ups spawn. It's really hard to have a good game. But I want to talk about the power-ups a little bit, because I feel like what's interesting about Battlefront's gameplay is that it blends a mixture between like Call of Duty's fast-paced gameplay, but also blends a mixture of like Halo's power weapons. Because in Halo, you got to memorize like, okay, I know the sniper's here, the rocket launcher's here, needler's here, whatever. In Battlefront, it's like, okay, hero's here, you know, AT-AT's here, I want that there, and you memorize them all, and then you can kind of talk with your squad, decide who gets what right off the bat, and it makes for some interesting play. But like I said, because Battlefront's surprisingly more fast-paced than Battlefield, where it could be compared to Call of Duty, it also mixes in that memorization of power-ups and power weapons, if you want to call it that, for the Halo comparison, where I thought it was an interesting blend to make unique gameplay in a sense. But I really like that idea. But as for the heroes are awesome. I got into a battle with Darth Vader on stream, and that was freaking sweet. I destroyed the guy. It's not as OP as in the older Battlefronts, which I was kind of hesitant and afraid of. Obviously, if you're playing as the hero and you're standing still, you're just going to deflect all the bullets. So as the soldiers, you kind of need to team up and shoot him where he's not looking. It's very accurate in that sense, where, you know, he can't just like be deflecting like this, and if I shoot him in the side, it's not like he's going to go like that. You know, if he's not looking, he can't see it, he gets hit. It works very well, where teamwork works, but also as the hero, you have to be smart with it, and you can't just run in like I did, and you'll get destroyed soon enough. So I really liked how the heroes played out. It didn't feel too OP, but it felt enough where, like, if you needed to get your game turned around, it would help, but it wouldn't literally turn the whole mode around. But it was good. As for flying, flying is great in my opinion. It's really difficult when it comes to the controls on PC, but on controller it was built well. But as the PC controls, holy hell, they're okay, but they should have mapped the evasive rolls to something other than F1, F2, F3, because like I'm like flying and then I'm like I want to roll this way and I'm reaching and then I roll, and it's clunky. But flying controls in gaming have never really worked out. But you know, flying is fun. You contribute to the battle, as I said earlier. It's good. Walker assaults, you're either, you know, activating as the rebels. I should specify, if you're the rebels, you're activating like these uplinks, and you have to activate both, and you get access to Y-wings. They come in, they bomb the AT-ATs, and then the AT-ATs are vulnerable, and you have to literally stop shooting everything on the map and focus your damn fire on the AT-AT, because if you don't, you're gonna probably end up losing. And I kind of like that, because it makes this intensity in the gameplay where it's like, you know, when the shields come back online, you sit there thinking to yourself, did we do enough damage? Did we hurt him enough where we can, once we bring the shields down, we can finish him off? Or are we going to have to like cut it close and they're going to make it to the third wave? Speaking of third wave, the map naturally expands in a really, really awesome fashion, because there's 2 sets of uplinks 3 times. And in the first set, it's kind of like your basic battle, and then the second one kind of puts you in like a trench as well as inside a cave. And then the final one is like probably the best trench warfare compared to any World War game out there. It's insane. The trenches of Hoth are awesome. And it really just gets intense. And the map develops and expands on its own. The spawn points obviously change. And it's almost like the rush of Battlefront, and I really like that a lot. And so I had a great time on that mode, but it's definitely not my favorite. I could see that being a lot of people's favorites, but I really didn't have a great time on it compared to what I think was the defining mode, which was Drop Zone, which was infantry and team play, which I think is what DICE is good at, but Battlefront really needed. I can't speak for the other modes such as Blast, Cargo, Droid Run, or whatever. I can't speak for those because I never played them. But from the beta, I really did enjoy what I played in it. It was a fun time, I have to say. And it really showed, sadly, the age of the older games, and that this is a new vision. This is a reboot. This is DICE's vision. And although it does take out a lot of what our older games had, I hope that in this video I at least pointed out that although it's not okay that they took all that out, that they could have tried to innovate further, that these modes aren't what we thought they were. You know, they're great, fun times when we were kids, or even maybe you're a young adult playing them, but they haven't aged as well, and they're clearly rehashes of what they used to be, where, you know, DICE could have tried to push things forward a little bit, but they didn't. But with what they did do, which I think will be enough, I really enjoyed it. I just hope it's not a case of the Titanfall, which I don't think it will be. Titanfall, you hopped in and you only had a select few modes. The unlocks were bare bones. It really was a great shooter, but in the terms of longevity, it was short term. Where I think the new Battlefront, based off what I've read and what I've played, I think it'll have enough longevity to get some decent life out of it. Obviously, with the 4 fucking expansion packs fucking ready. Well, we don't know what we're doing, but $50, fuck that. I'm sorry. I love this series, but I'll wait on that. I like what I played, and one final thought is that from the standpoint of a beta, Battlefield 3 was the last beta I played this much and loved so much, where usually after a beta I play it and then I'm like, okay, I got a feel for this game. I'm really not that into it. That's usually why I stay away from betas. I stayed away from the Destiny alpha and beta for that exact reason. I just gave away codes for them whenever I got them because I didn't want to ruin the game for myself. Game ended up sucking anyway, but regardless. But with the Battlefront beta, I had to play it for my own sake. But once I played it, I wanted more. And even after playing it for tons and tons of hours on both the PC and the PS4, I still was like, shit, I want to play more of this game. And I want to see more of it. And so I think DICE, in the sense of multiplayer, put their money where their mouth is. The single player is clearly lacking and will be a blemish on the product. But from what there is, I like what I saw. And I'm not saying it's going to be Game of the Year. It's not. But it's going to be good fun. And if you go into this not treating it as Battlefront 3, the sequel to Battlefront 2, but DICE's reboot, as they've clearly stated, DICE's reboot, Star Wars Battlefront, a new vision for Star Wars Battlefront, and realize that although these are fucking wonderful games, that they really aren't what they used to be, you will suddenly be a little bit more okay with what the beta had to offer. Oh, one final thing, the reskin thing. Okay, look, I understand that you're calling it a reskin, some of you guys out there. But, it's from DICE. It's gonna have that flavor of the weighty gun running and that similar build to it. But honestly, if you play in third person, I couldn't fucking tell I couldn't tell that it was from DICE. It was its own thing. And that's what I also like about the modes, is none of these were rehashes of the Battlefield modes. It was its own thing. And like I said, I know it's a sample size, but from what I played, which is what the beta is designed to do, along with technical tests, I say that in parentheses or in quotes because probably just a hype thing. But from what I've seen, I like it a lot. I'm really excited for it, which I originally was not anymore, and that's why the video creations for Battlefront really slowed down, because I just wasn't as into the game. Now I'm pretty into the game, and I'm really stoked to hopefully make some more videos on this. But this has been a long video, and if you stayed this whole way through, then kudos to you, man. You stuck to your word and heard out my entire opinion, and for that, I salute you and thank you so much, because I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I hope you guys realize that based off 33 minutes of straight rambling, that I clearly love this franchise. I had a lot to say, and I have said it. So, yeah, bonus video for tonight. Your nice, little extra content. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on the Battlefront beta in the comments down below. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.